Today is the first time in a long time where I've had this, I think, inner calling to try to do a recording, something to share on YouTube. Really, it's for, I guess, dual purpose. One, to show myself that I can do this, but two, to share my story, the journey that I've been on with healing trauma, healing CPTSD, what that actually looks like. Because I don't think anyone can truly say they know what that journey looks like. And I think it changes throughout as well, because it all comes down to your individual experiences, where you were at in the times when those events happened, but also where you're at currently and how it hits you. It can hit you differently at times. So I've been wanting to do this for a long while. I did a recording and then subsequently a couple of smaller videos, which I never posted. So today is kind of a test to see if I managed to get this out there. So it's been about, first of all, my name is Kai. I'm wanting to call this series, or create a playlist called Sincerely Me. What that represents is how we show up in the world. I've always strived to show up with sincerity with others, but then it dawned on me a couple months ago as how much sincerity I show up for myself. So sincerely me is one way, as a practice perhaps, that I can help myself, but then also maybe help others to find a way where framing what healing and post-traumatic growth can look like. And yeah, just being sincere, that somehow touches a tenderness within. So of course I have fears. Well, if anyone has been on a healing journey or has been on, there are definitely, fear is one of the biggest things that make up, I guess, like the emotional energy that's been stuck, that's within us. So naturally, it's then also scary to share what we've been through, because it's vulnerable. So I want to acknowledge myself, my parts that feel a little bit scared. But what I really wanted to share was today, I guess the reason why I was prompted again, is how, despite all the work that I've done, I'm a master certified neurolinguistic practitioner, coach, facilitator. I work with clients to help them surface the unconscious patterns that is what keeping them feeling stuck in conflict. And I try my best to do the work with myself. That's how I originally delved into it. And today is one of those instances where I was able to tap in. I was able to hold space. And through the use with technology, with AI journaling prompts, I developed, a practice where I can help coach myself through right in the moments instead of needing to put it aside. I woke up feeling a little bit activated because yet again, for I don't know how many days in a row, I've been having dreams where I wake up And whether it's visceral or not, in terms of do I remember the specifics of the dream, the trend or the theme has been there's a suppressed memory where my brain is trying to close the loop, right? Our unconscious mind likes to close loops, and when it can't close it, it suppresses it until a later date. And lately, this last 2 weeks, in fact, it's been opening up, allowing, unsuppressing what I describe as the base emotion of fear and terror, or being shocked, horrified. I've had many instances where life experience was very challenging. Some of them life or death. Some of them not really life or death, but as a 3-year-old, it certainly felt that way because we cognitively haven't developed our minds to that level yet. We're still in early developmental years, and so everything is pretty black and white and pretty simple. And the interesting thing is that it was the feeling of fear, anxiousness, and terror was just kind of riding in the background. So I was aware, after a good solid 6 months of practice, just being aware and sitting with emotions and not ignoring them, that it was still very present. But then something with I also work fractionally as a consultant, and so something on the client side, a new development happened where, there was conflict within the client company, and that I noticed really affected me, where my own suppressed fears and terror, anxiety was now bleeding into my work. And I could tell and separate, but I can tell that they were separate, and yet it was impacting how I was feeling in the moment, which does impact then my capacity for doing my work. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I have been trying to design my life where I'm not taking on as much work in order to give time to healing, to hold space. I had no idea how much time I would need. I just know that I felt fatigued a lot. And this is, where some people can have chronic fatigue syndrome with unresolved trauma. And for me, it's more what I didn't realize is when you're surfacing and processing, and when your body goes into integration mode, such as your nervous system has to recalibrate, your unconscious mind and conscious mind has to align and basically upgrade its operating system between the two, your body wants to shut down just like a computer. It needs to reboot. It needs downtime. So I feel very fortunate to have sort of, felt that I potentially needed, and somehow managed to manifest my work schedule that has flexibility. Granted, it's I view it as an investment. Some I also view it as a sacrifice, so it's a bit of both, meaning I'm not making a full income wage, so financially it's stressful, but I recognize that it's time. I needed to jump in. I needed to commit to this. It's for my own being, for my own well-being, not just mentally, emotionally, but our body, our being. There's actually 5 bodies, right? So mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually. And when I started this, I was looking more at mentally and physically, because physical symptoms show up when you have a nervous system that's maxed out, dysregulated. And emotionally, I seemed to be doing okay in the beginning, but then that started to be impacted. And then realizing as I was starting to heal, open up, hold space, and process, then emotionally there can be roller coaster days. And that, through my own research and talking to, a counselor that has experience working somatically with clients, and also has done being educated on how our nervous system operates. So polyvagal theory has really helped to ground me in that, okay, I'm not losing my mind, why I'm experiencing, a roller coaster of days where I feel like I'm in freeze, even though nothing has happened. I can't think straight, brain fog, to some days where I feel like I'm in fight mode, right? I can feel like underneath the surface anger is coming through. These are all what used to be suppressed, but they're all coming to the surface. So I had a pretty sharp learning curve to learn what was happening. And so I feel fortunate to have those support. But I live on my own. I no longer have family. Our parents have passed. I have a younger sibling that's not in contact, and the impacts of the childhood trauma that we both experienced. But for her, she was much younger, so the impacts were, I think, more significant but different. So I really just have myself to be accountable for. And sometimes that can feel lonely. Whereas other days, it's such a blessing. There isn't other influences, that can take place or impacting me. Now, today was one of those days, woke up, I don't know how many days, like the 5th day, 6th day of noticing the fear, the terror coming through, and now something's happened with the client side, and I start to feel it bleed over, and my body started to speak very loudly, almost like taking over. And I had to be conscious and say I'm embracing it, partially because I don't want to suppress it. I don't want to ignore it. I want my body to know, and the parts of myself, and specifically the former versions, the younger parts, to know that I am here, that I am listening, and that I'm willing to be that person that cares and wants to be there, because I didn't have that growing up in those instances. And very fortunate that I could shift my hours, because today was pretty flexible. I work when I need to, and I have flexibility in my day. And so what was interesting, as I made this conscious, like, okay, I'm going to embrace this, even though I feel like I don't fully understand what's happening. When anger and sadness worked itself through, it made more sense. But this fear, and that something else was underlying that I couldn't quite understand, because again, it's new every time. But when I made that decision to embrace it, I started to feel really cold. Like within 15 to 20 minutes, I felt chilled to the bone. And then I had to do some journal prompting to just help me focus and ask myself, in this moment, what is it that my parts of me need? And what I got intuitively was a hot bath. I thought, okay, I will go run a hot bath. I can shift my my availability since there was no meetings, nothing pressing. And while I was running a hot bath, I'm still trying to stay in the moment, doing some journal prompt, and it's like, well, what's significant about this intuitive hit sense that I need to take a hot bath? And what came up right away was, the traumatic life experience I had at 9. That was the most remembered or clear life-threatening terror, because my sister and I was having bath time with my mother in the bathroom. This is while we lived abroad, and her boyfriend came home in a drunken rage and was threatening us. And my mother had locked us in the bathroom, and at some point he tried to chop down the wall with a butcher knife. I was very frightened. I'm sure anyone would be. But being 9, it's weird. I can almost see some of the visual memory and yet not fully feel what was what I would have been experiencing. So I know that part of me had dissociated. I always did understand that when I started to delve into this. But there was a symbolic gesture of taking a hot bath as almost to close the loop. So I had that sort of moment like, oh, is this my unconscious mind needing to close the loop? Because I can warm up. And self-lead for myself. That's language borrowing from internal family systems, parts work, where you can self-coach. So self-lead to let the younger parts that were scared, traumatized, because that event went on. There's more to it, where at one point it was definitely a life or death situation when the man came after my sister and I with a baseball bat, and I had hidden us underneath the futon. Before he could hit us, my mother had jumped on him to stop it. So luckily, but between the bathroom and there were some very frightening moments. I tried to scream for help at the window, but I was so scared. I froze. I couldn't scream. And that sheer panic is the only emotion I can tap into. And even though when I checked in to see how early, how old am I, this shivering feeling, it actually intuitively, I was given 3-year-old. And then the memory of how I got lost in the department store at Sears when I was a kid came up, and I was like, oh, did I experience absolute terror? I have no recollection, but it would make sense as a 3. I mean, 3, everything's black and white. Your safety is your parents, and for me to have momentarily, I think I got distracted, I don't know, lost them, and then had grabbed onto someone who I thought was my dad. I think their pant leg. I remember this story being told to me later on. But then when I looked up where the person was startled, and I looked up why is this person why are you grabbing my pant leg? Realizing that wasn't my dad. Same pant color, but not my dad. I seem to think, or I was told, that I freaked out. even though I can't feel that feeling. I don't have recollection. So again, probably was in such shock that we can sort of detach, right, from our emotions. So I have vague recollections, and I think it's being told that, of course, parents were paged and reunion. And I remember clearly afterwards being taken out for ice cream as like this comfort thing. But I don't really remember any emotions beyond the shock of looking up at a stranger who's also looking at me like, what is this kid grabbing onto my pant leg? So while I'm sitting in the hot bath and I can't warm up, I had to top up the hot water twice to get it really hot so I could feel it. And then I started to feel this emotion well up, like chest, diaphragm up. And I started, it's like sobbing but without the whole like crying getting to sobbing. It just like starts at sobbing. And almost whimpering, which, any of you who've been through processing, it is such a surreal experience because there's the current you observing, witnessing, experiencing what a younger part of you from a former time is releasing. And so you can distinctly feel the current you in a different time, but you're the one, like this body is doing the crying, for example, the sobbing. And I had to learn how to just embrace what was happening, because it's very weird. The first few times that happened, like my conscious mind would be like, oh, this is weird, and then it would stop, and then I'd stall my processing or release. So it came up, I sobbed and could feel that it literally is diaphragm, like tremoring, and tremoring is a way of releasing that energy. And by the way, there's only 3 ways. It's through tears, sweat, and shaking, how we release trauma, which is why when something scary happened, we either shake afterwards or we cry, or, we like cold sweat it out. So did that, it eased up, and then and then there was a second round. So I felt like it was both the 9-year-old and the 3-year-old. Just, it's been a buildup. And I've had subsequent traumas after, through abuse, neglect, emotional manipulation when we had to live with guardians. It was like they were all kind of releasing. That's what it felt like. I can't qualify and say it's true or not, but it was true in the moment. So, so the second, I guess, release came as well. Same thing, sobbing, crying. That's where it felt more younger, whimpering. Felt like more like the 3-year-old, if that's what it was. And then I just felt into like I needed to give myself hugs. Like, and part of that is also self-comforting, right? Like havening, where you give yourself that sensation and you touch your own skin to ground yourself, to soothe, to regulate your nervous system. So I did that, for I think a good minute or 2 and let the tears run dry or the process finish itself. And then all of a sudden I felt really hot. So I had to get out of the bath. When I did that, I could still feel like I released what seemed like grief or feeling hurt, scared, like the aftermath, but I still had the fear and the anxiety still buzzing in my body. So I realized, I'm like, okay, I have to focus on this right now. I shifted my work time again since there was no immediate need, and I sat there and did a round of emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping. And I do particular ones called deep clearing. So it's more focus on helping to transmute trauma energy, right? Energy is cannot be destroyed. You just need to shift it, transmute it. So I did a round of tapping that lessened it by half. I was at a 10. Like, it just felt really, I could feel it in my body, and it felt so real and yet foreign, because I can see around me I'm totally safe, but my body was experiencing the energy still. So I did some more journaling, because at that point I felt like I needed to journal. And I now have learned to trust my body more. Sometimes I still fight it. It's every time it's different. So it's like this forever ongoing learning and adjusting and iterating. So I did some more journaling, and then I did some self-coaching, neuro-linguistic programming, because I could recognize I have a belief that doesn't make sense. It's called complex equivalent. That I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I released it, so I don't want to like reprogram it, but it was around how feeling financially insecure, unsafe, which is a current situation that I feel every so often, in that younger self, because of all the traumas, and then COVID, right? Couldn't work during COVID, so finances became scary. Because of the complex PTSD or trauma stacking up, somewhere in my, I think, 40s, when COVID occurred and I was struggling the most, I formed a belief with the younger parts of myself that unless I'm financially secure or abundant, I'm not safe. I'm not, I'm not safe, and I can't live the life that I want and be alive, like feeling alive. So there was a part of me that was protecting myself from feeling alive and joyful and feeling safe, because I'm not financially abundant right now. And it was just like, whoa, what? That makes so much sense. And in the moment, I knew I hit the nail on the head, because as I was going through the exercise to break the belief, and I have experience working with clients on how this experience, what it looks like is, I'll ask a question. It's a specific way of asking questions and flipping it. When you've hit it and it's just about to break it, our brains literally go, does not compute. Can you say the question again? And then they might not answer it correctly. And so as a facilitator, you're also trying to keep track, hopefully not be confused by it also, and help them break it by connecting the dots in the way that it needs to. So you're literally breaking and rewiring the brain. So I hit that moment, and then it was a moment of like, wow, okay. And that made me emotional, having that realization. And I didn't feel that I needed to do another round of emotional release for the time being. I recognized that if I felt it more, I can do it later. I wanted to have my body have an opportunity to do some recalibration on its own. And like within half hour, all of a sudden I felt drained of energy, heavy, like I just needed to go to sleep. And that's something that I've learned, that's when the body's like, okay, we need to recalibrate. We're going to upgrade right now. And so, again, feel very grateful and fortunate to have created a life where I can do that. And had to take a nap. I just literally zonked out for, I think it was a couple of hours. Like when I woke up, I couldn't tell time at all. And I've gotten used to leaving the TV on, like on quiet in the background, as in a way it's like to help me anchor. I woke up, was groggy, which I have now learned to expect when we're recalibrating. There's a lot of processes happening. The brain is rewiring. The energy has been transmuted. The body actually goes through detox, and so needing to drink lots of water to help the body kind of complete the whole process. It's like it's washing, it's cleaning, and rewiring. That's the whole process of rebooting. And I had the pleasure of an old acquaintance from a personal development program I took, 20 years ago, almost 20 years, just a few months shy. He's now elderly, and he thought to call me when he had some computer problem. And I hadn't even thought about calling one and that's after that call is what prompted me to do this. And then I realized it's hard to talk about what I'm going through unless people have gone through it themselves to some degree, to do this kind of deep work, that it can be really isolating without us realizing. And as human beings, we need to have that human connection. But when it's hard and it's not safe, because I haven't to try to show people understand, it can actually create a sense of you're not being heard, you're not being seen, and so sometimes cause a little bit of a backward step. So I'm cautious about that. But when I shared with my lovely older friend, and he didn't say a whole lot. Our conversations are usually short. And I also have a little hard time understanding as his speech, as he ages, speech slurs a bit. So we keep our conversations short, to the point, and even just me sharing and the few words he said, he said like he went through, one of a healing process for him. And he's like, yeah, what you described, this up and down, this cycling, this roller coaster. So he can only imagine how challenging it can be. But he also knows how rewarding. And so that was really great reminder. But I also felt really heard and seen in that one little sentence he said. And I just felt really choked up. And realized in that moment that that's also what my parts needed. And I'm being reminded of that. They also need to hear, because part of our unconscious mind, where memories are held and our identities are held, and that's where these parts are, they need to hear of our progress. They need to be acknowledged. They also need to be praised. And having been brought up in a culture, praise wasn't really given. Love isn't expressed, talked about. Self-praise, I had no idea what that even meant, like self-love, self-praise, self-compassion, is something that's still somewhat foreign to myself, even though I understand it, but it's not ingrained in me. And even though I teach other people, it's like whenever I teach, I relearn myself. So, and that's a beautiful thing, meaning I'm in practice with you. And I'm on this journey with you sitting in my own learnings and growth. But yeah, like just needing to share. And so I just felt compelled to share this experience, the insights, and I just want you to know, anyone that does watch this somehow finds it, that yes, the healing journey is one that you need to have. That's your own journey. So yes, it can feel alone, but knowing that you're not alone in the world, though, going through similar journeys. No one journey is exactly alike, but to know that there's so many others out there who has also chosen that roller coaster ride or a long hike. Sometimes I feel like it's a long hike. Of going on this journey of unknown, of what feels nebulous and complex and such a mixed bag. And we know somehow that this is what we need and what we're meant to do, so that we can get to our authentic selves and live our life with such sincerity and joy that, we're so authentic in our being, that we're living our purpose. It's a journey to get to that sincerity. And I'm done with being super, or having it lopsided, where I'm really sincere with others, but that means giving, and not giving to myself. So, looping back to how I started this conversation of, this is me being sincere with myself. So, sincerely me. And if you've sat through my ramblings, thank you. I hope it brings some insight or comfort, or maybe it's just new knowledge and understanding. I have so many more things I want to share. I'm recently post-menopause, so how menopause has impacted unresolved trauma. They're definitely interconnected, and how having unresolved trauma impacts menopause symptoms. They really do tie in and impact one another, and I want to help other people get to this space where while I was going through it, it was really difficult. There was 2 years I had no idea what was going on. The doctors weren't very helpful. I finally decided enough is enough. I'm taking matters in my own hand. I'm going to be my own expert of my body, learn about nervous system, learn about hormones, finding my own team of medical support. I'll call it. I call them my support team. And getting to a place where, it was hard, but I can see the collateral beauty of both the menopause and the trauma, the timing in which it, overflowed, butted heads, or intertwined and overflowed. That in itself, like the gift of trauma and the gift of menopause, in terms of what it creates, the meaningful life insights and growths and opportunity to deepen ourselves as a human being, but also I think our soul's journey and purpose. And I'm trusting that there are other like minds or like souls out there that may find one another, for us to find one another. And that is, I think, where I'll leave it at today. I've rambled. I don't even know how long I've rambled. But again, thank you. Subscribe or like, leave me a comment, although that scares me. Hopefully we're all in it for it to be positive, with compassion, kindness, and hope. That's what I would love to see in this world more of. Okay, thank you.